Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 63rd Comic Art Live chat. And tonight we've got a guest comic card collector from CAF, Dick O. We'll be bringing him on in a few minutes, but I wanted to do a quick reminder since tonight is the eve of the Best of Awards, which is going to happen tomorrow evening. You only have 3 hours left to vote in the Best of competition, and we've actually gotten probably a record number of votes this time around. Probably the 3 weeks that we allotted for it has helped out, but we have a couple categories that are super, super close because I can see a preview of the awards already in some of those super secret admin pages that I show off every once and again. So if you haven't cast your votes yet, I would sincerely hope that you can take some time, whether it's during the chat or in the hour or so after this. We're done, just because remember, midnight Eastern Standard Time, the links will go away and you will not be able to cast a vote in the Best of. And I can tell you the tight categories at the moment that I really could use some votes on, if you haven't already, is the cover category. There is a literally almost a three-way tie for first on that, which I've not ever seen before. And there's several categories where there's a few runaway favorites, but covers is very close. Strip art is always very close, but this year, again, 3 artworks are in a virtual tie at the top of the heap, and it's probably pretty clear which ones those would be. But so strip arts is definitely one I need some votes in, and covers just to kind of move it around a little bit. Or I'll be giving out 2 trophies for first place for whomever ties at the top of those lists. So Kat Taka, I see that. All right, you haven't voted. That means get out there sometime tonight before midnight Eastern Standard Time. We got less than 3 hours now to get those votes in. And you got to do it. Everybody's got to do it if you haven't done it. And I can tell you, I think I made it. No, I didn't tell anybody today, but the box did arrive today at the trophies. And here you have it. There it is. Thanks, Mikhail. This was your idea. So there you go. Look, I am worthy, as we already knew. So the thing is, so I've got 16 of these in. And the girls aren't home yet, but when they do get home, I'm going to, they get home, they're driving home from Florida tomorrow and Wednesday. I'm going to have them paint basically the handle of the hammer so that they're all actually unique. And I promise you that I will sign the bottom of every one of these that go out. We have the 10 awards for the 10 categories. And of course, we also have we're going to give away some special awards as well. Just some fun awards that Mikhail and I worked up, and those will be handed out tomorrow evening at the same time. So plenty of fun things going on tomorrow. I think you're going to enjoy the way the format's going to run as well. Ashton and I have spent a lot of time working on the presentations of the awards, so it's going to be a lot different than I've done it in the past, but hopefully a little bit more professional as well. And I hope everyone tunes in tomorrow, since that's the big celebration of the hobby at the end of the day, right? The Best of collected works from 2021. It's CAF's birthday tomorrow. So yes, you got to get in there and cast some votes and hang out with us tomorrow, because it is going to be a lot of fun. So with all of that out of the way, again, get the votes in if you can. If you can't, I'll understand. There's always next year. But let me bring in my guest of the evening, Dick. Oh, hey, Dick, how you doing?
Hi, Bill. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here.
Yes, now it's very early where you're at, right? So tell me where you're from.
Well, I'm in Singapore, so it's 10 a.m.
Oh, 10 a.m.
And the reason I can speak today is because it's Chinese New Year. So it's a public holiday here. And it's a weekday morning. So normally I'm at work, right? And unfortunately, I can't join these sessions live. But today, good timing, and I can finally make it. And thank you for having me.
Oh, yep. Hey, it's my pleasure. I wondered why you asked for today. I knew that this was a specific day you requested, because Mondays aren't a normal show night for me. But now it just didn't click. But now I get it. So I'm glad we were able to work this out.
Yep. Excellent to finally be here.
Yeah, and you've got
Happy New Year, everyone. Yeah.
Happy New Year to you as well. Yeah, Mr. Easy, Harry's offered it, and Sam. Yep, Carlos, James. There we go. So. Have you seen the shows that we've done before? When we've done an interview, we always let you start off and tell us about your origin story in the hobby, with comics in general, and then how you got started collecting original comic art, of course, is what we're most interested in. But, tell us how you got started in this great hobby of ours.
Yeah, sure. So I'll give a brief background on Singapore, just for the audience knowledge. So Singapore is based it's in Southeast Asia. So that's, if you're familiar with the geography of the region, we are basically in the middle of like Malaysia, and Indonesia is to our south, Malaysia is to our north, and we're a tiny little island about 30, 40 miles wide, 6 million people. So we used to be a British colony until about the 60s. That's why our first language is English.
Mhm.
But because we have no natural resources, we have become a sort of a trading center. So our port is very important to us. The finance sector and the used to be high-tech manufacturing as well as other financial services. We've sort of developed into kind of like a little regional hub for all these services going forward. And we're quite fortunate that, we have a good education system, good jobs. So we are, quite a prosperous nation. And that's how we actually have quite an active OA community in Singapore. Even though there's only about 5-6 million people, there's a Facebook group with about 30, 40 folks in Singapore who collect, and we actually meet up quite regularly. I guess compared to many other collectors in other cities. Yeah. So I got sorry. Well, because of this pandemic, it's been less frequent. But as recently as about a couple of weeks back, we met up at one of the collectors' houses. There's about 5-6 of us to have a look through his art. He's quite an established collector as well, so he has a lot of 70s stuff, a lot of 70s covers and such. So, well, back to my story now. So, I think I've always been quite a voracious reader, and I was mainly into fantasy and sci-fi as a child. Somehow I fell into comic books, from like the thrift stores, the second-hand comics that you could buy for like 10, 20 cents, and mainly from, I guess, the 70s and 80s. And I guess by the time I started collecting seriously, it was around, I guess, the early 90s when I first went to a real comic book shop and set up a pull list and all that. So I guess you can guess my collecting taste. And it just developed from there. I read, mainly Spider-Man, X-Men, the mainstream Marvel stuff through most of my childhood until about college age. And then I stopped for various reasons. And I got back into it as like a adult, in my mid-20s. I just started picking up books again, and I started reading a lot of the cosmic stuff, and particularly the Thanos stuff, Infinity Gauntlet, a lot of the Starling. And so I think a bit differently from most collectors, my nostalgia OA collecting period is actually based on my adult comic book reading, not my childhood reading. Like I'm not really a X-Men or Spider-Man collector, and it's just blossomed from there. So I started, being interested in like Thanos art, and it just developed more into the Marvel cosmos as a whole, the cosmic universe. Because from there you branch out to Galactus, Eternity, Living Tribunal, and all these bombastic concepts and psychedelic, character designs. And so that's where I kind of started my OA collecting, when I finally had enough, resources to buy OA as a working adult. Because as you all know, it's not a cheap hobby. So unfortunately, I mean, even back then, I started collecting about 10, 12 years ago. So OA has always been, slightly more expensive than most other hobbies, but I think what attracted me to it, obviously, is the ability to appreciate the art form in true close-up detail. And the other aspect of it was the financial aspect, in that you could buy pieces and you didn't necessarily have to lose money like a lot of other hobbies or pursuits, and you can actually retain value in it. So these OA aficionado articles that I started writing in about 2016 to 2018, a lot of them were sort of market reports, like tracking auction sales, market movement, prices for certain artists and time periods. And the idea there was to sort of educate and try to grow awareness, appreciation for OA. Because at that point in time, particularly, there wasn't much discourse publicly about original art as a whole. And even though original art collectors, we are definitely some of the most passionate, eloquent, intelligent, resourceful folks around in terms of hobby engagement, but there just wasn't much out there to sort of like grow awareness for a hobby, and particularly from like a buying financial perspective. Like if you want to grow a hobby, people have to be comfortable and aware of values in order to be comfortable to shell out substantial sums for these items. So I was trying to start laying the groundwork for hopefully a future market growth in terms of price education and market education. And so I carried on for about almost 1.5 years straight. For about 80 plus weeks in a row, we managed to produce an article. A lot of it thanks to all those collectors who contributed back then, because in order to give me weeks off here and there, these collectors would write articles about their own stories and journeys and their pieces, and then I would basically just cut and paste and post it there a month or so. So thanks to all of you guys and girls, and we managed to keep it going for about 1.5 years, and then work commitments and such took over. But Carol, wow, you picked it up and you have just exploded it in all kinds of directions. So enjoyable and proud to see that we now have a kind of a nexus for all our comic art discussions and interactions through you. Because as I think you mentioned during some of your previous shows, CAF itself as a portal was fantastic for parking and presenting OA to the world, but it was still slightly lacking in being able to connect collectors together.
I agree. Oh yeah, no, it was always one of the biggest drawbacks. I just didn't have a vehicle or a means of doing that. I didn't feel I did at the time. But fortunately,
and technology as well wasn't quite there.
No, it wasn't. I mean, we had talked about this. I had done a few interviews about 2.5 years ago, but I recorded them and then had to edit them and present them on YouTube, and it just was. I didn't enjoy it. It wasn't a fun way to go about it. I mean, if it wasn't for the pandemic, we probably wouldn't have Comic Art Live today, and I'd probably be working for some local company here in Cleveland as a marketing executive, because that was what I was looking to do about 2 years ago. So one good thing came out of the pandemic for that. But so after writing that for as many weeks as you did, and I did put a link in the YouTube chat for everybody who's watching. You can kind of look up some of the articles that Dick had written. But so why did you stop? Just kind of burned yourself out, or what happened?
I think, like I mentioned, work commitments, life commitments, and also about 80 plus weeks of writing. I said more or less what I had to say. And I think at that point in time, it was basically, I wouldn't say I burnt out, but I just said my piece.
Right.
Yeah, because, so just to go a bit of background, most of it were week by week, like analysis of eBay auctions or CAF auctions or Clink auctions, Comic Connect and such. And what I will try to do is a bit like what you and Colin are doing now, I believe. You sort of highlight previous week's sales, and then I try to do a bit more deep dive into it. I would do like market research and analysis of that artist's works or from that time period and those characters, and try to provide comparable sales and a bit of my own perspective of where those markets are going. So it was quite time consuming as well, and energy consuming. So it's not burnout, but I said my piece, and it was time to just move on.
Right. Well, I mean,
hopefully it has some little impact on our belief. Yeah.
right. Well, other people said that your articles were a gateway to some to get into the hobby, and that's good. I mean, that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, we do want to grow the base. It's not easy, right? You can't force people to appreciate and want to buy original comic art, no matter how many things we write about it or we try to present the hobby in a good light. It's hard to convert somebody who's a comic book collector or maybe is just a fan of the films and make them become an original art collector. It's really not easy. So, I think that's why we don't see the hobby growing as quickly as you'd think it should, but which is probably good. I mean, if we were doubling or adding 20% new collectors every year, the prices would probably, on the lower end of things would probably see an impact, and that would lead to more disgruntled collectors, complaining about the price increases that we're seeing today. So, I mean, in its own way, it's probably okay that our hobby doesn't grow as quickly as we'd like. But I do think putting all that information out there is really important. And that's why telling the stories of collectors is, I realized was really important, because there's so many people who don't get a chance to meet a lot of other OA collectors, and just getting to meet one another, share stories, realize you've done the same dumb things that other people have. I mean, I think it's really good to know that, because we've all overpaid for art in the past more than once. And we will most likely all do it again. And those are hard lessons to learn. And we all kind of fall back into those traps. If you're that disciplined an art collector that you know that you get a good buy every time and it's a fair price, that doesn't work that way. It just simply doesn't, especially when there's just so much competition. You know who you're competing against. I know Jason D'Ambrosio is out there trying to get X-Men pieces just like I am. And James is always getting out the great DPSs that I can't get, and so that, and those things fuel your need to pay a little overpay sometimes. So anybody who's actually able to be disciplined, stay focused on within a budget. I mean, I commend those people, because it's so difficult to do in the hobby today.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, but that's why Cal and CAF have given collectors the opportunity, like the collector conversations, your interviews like this, and also your interviews with the dealers and artists and reps. Finally, we have a voice and a forum, a central place that we can all gather and try to grow it bit by bit. And back to your point about the market volatility, yeah, I agree. If this was an easy hobby to get into, and you didn't have to be really passionate and knowledgeable and take time to learn it, it will be susceptible to a lot of the other volatility that other markets are prone to nowadays, like comic books or sports cards, especially trading cards.
Mm-hmm. True.
Crazy money going in there and ups and downs all around. But back to a previous point that we talked about, or I've spoken about, and you've mentioned also, OA is undervalued still compared to all these other collectible assets. I mean, if you've seen the way that the high-end comic books and trading cards have exploded in the last year or so, the price increases in our OA pool are not so significant.
I've said it all along. Yeah, I've said that all
times.
Right.
Crazy.
I mean, we're as bad as we think it is. I mean, just give it a couple more years, and the prices will probably be double again. I mean, if the market continues like it should, and it's only because it's being appreciated for for what it is, as an art medium, as a storytelling medium. I mean, I just think that it is attracting, the attention that we always knew it deserved, and so it's working against us in that way. But it is finally realizing the prices that I've always felt it should. I mean, the art does belong in a museum. That's a joke we always say, but because of Indiana Jones. But it's true. It really does belong beside other contemporary, American and European creators, painters, fine artists, and everything. And so, and we're not there yet. We're not anywhere close to that yet. We have record-breaking sales every month, but we still don't really have the recognition. It's still this funny book with a original art page that came out of it, sold for $3.36 million, and every news outlet picks up on it, but it's not really converting fine art collectors to start buying original art, comic art or illustration art, but it's getting some attention, but it's not really getting the attention that it really deserves. But that's okay. I mean, right now.
Yeah, I actually think that the rate that the market are always preferable to those other speculative markets, because the people who come in are well educated, passionate, and they stick around. So prices grow in a steady, linear manner instead of undergoing all kinds of volatility, which, it's, in my mind, is not so desirable for a collectible asset or an asset. But
Mm-hmm.
If we wanted to have huge influx of people, then it would somehow dilute the quality of the buyer and collector base, I think, that we currently have.
No,
So OA collecting is really a phenomenal niche of a niche of a niche, but it's phenomenal in a good way. Like, it really sticks out in terms of like, the quality and passion of the community from
right. And
almost
the
every
great thing
other
is,
collectible or asset class.
and I would say it's fantastic because we're still small enough that we can all really kind of know most of the people who are in the hobby. We know all the principal collectors, and say 75% of the collectors out there, like, don't mind being known. We're small enough that we can appreciate those around us. Whereas if the hobby were 3 or 4 times larger, you would never have that kind of same perspective on things. And it's going to get there, but at least for now, it's fun knowing, being in this kind of a small community where we can at least be familiar with one another. Because if it got larger, it wouldn't feel the same, certainly. But it will be there one day, and hopefully with things like CAF and CA Live and whatever else springs up, because of all these things that are going on in the hobby, that we find a way to kind of keep it always feeling a little bit more close knit than some of the larger hobbies that are out there.
Yeah, Cal has definitely achieved that. Yeah, for sure.
Yep. Well, we still have a long way to go, but we're getting there. But you know what? If you ever want to write an article, if you ever feel inspired, you have a place to post it on CAF. So just remember that. If you ever feel the need you got something else to say, you're more than welcome to start another forum over on our site as well. I'd be happy to publish anything that you want to put together. So just always remember that, Dick. That's the thing. I need more contributors than we got. At the end of the day, it's I think that the more voices that we can kind of get out there, you've already done it, so it's not like I'm asking, but I think it's really true. The more people who are out there, and that's why these mediums have worked really well, just getting everybody to talk to one another and share their thoughts about the hobby. But I think that the more contributors we can get at all levels on CAF and CA Live, the better. But hey, you know what? We're here to talk about you. So a big question I wanted to know was, I mean, what are the challenges as a collector in Singapore? I mean, as far as, shipping's always going to cost more. It's not like you're getting to have, conventions in your backyard on any regular basis. So how do you feel disadvantaged, I guess, by being where you're at as an OA collector today?
Well, to be honest, today, I don't think there's much of a disadvantage anymore because of technology, and most people are kind of confined to their geographical locations because of the pandemic. But I mean, one of the catalysts for my collecting, aside from having the resources to do it even, as a working adult, was the technological linkages. Because I mean, even as a child or a teenager, young adult collecting and reading comics, I was aware that there was original art somewhere, in some form, and I was interested in it, but there was absolutely no way to access it. Even when I used to go to New York as a kid, every few years, my parents would bring me because I love New York. The best I could do was, go to comic shops and buy like Silver Age keys and all that. OA was just, before the internet, there was just no way to access it. If you didn't live in the Northeast, or you weren't plugged into the CBG or some very niche artist and collector circles in America, there was just no access. So, but with the internet and technology, I think especially today, there's almost no more disadvantage. In terms of access, shipping, because the stuff costs so much, the shipping cost is quite negligible. sadly or fortunately, right. I don't know. But I think the only drawback would have been my perception was that the only drawback would have been lack of interaction with other collectors. But in my interactions with American collectors, European collectors, actually they have much smaller local communities than the OA community in Singapore. Like a lot of them live in sizable cities, or like they have never met another OA collector, or they have very few, and there's no such thing as meetups and all that in most cities, unless you live in one of the big metropolises like New York, or I don't know. I guess Ohio seems to have quite a few. I don't know why.
Right, but
I don't know
we've
why
honestly
it's
never
made
done
in
it.
Ohio.
I know that's the sad part. I know. Well, I've met a few collectors in the area, but I know there are probably 100 OA collectors between Cleveland and Columbus and Kent,
Yeah.
where Mike Berkey lives, and we've never had a single meetup, not one.
Yeah.
And I
So-
mean, I've never understood that.
don't understand.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's probably my fault.
I mean, so that's why I'm trying to reach out to collectors again. Do stuff to engage the community and bring in new people. Any way you can, have more meetups, start new platforms to communicate, do more online, there's whatnot sales or whatever. Just do stuff to stimulate more interest and access to our community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's when we were talking before the show about my move to Florida, and the home I bought there is built for entertaining. So I've already reached out to some collectors in Florida, and I just said, my whole time as a collector in Northeast Ohio, I've never asked or tried to host a meetup, but I want to do that when I get down to Florida. I want to have at least 2 meetups a year at my place, or maybe we'll find some place in Orlando, something like that. But at the end of the day, I don't want to be secluded. I want to be able to try to organize those sorts of things. And I think that came out of something that we've talked about a few times on CAF, how we have the ability to say what country you're from, but we want to modify that for the US at the very least, where if you choose that you're in the United States, that you can also pick the state you're in. So at least, so then you can kind of filter the collectors out there by at least those who are in the same state. And maybe you could start organizing some meetups once you knew that, where these other collectors are. I mean, today I couldn't go to CAF and see how many collectors are in Ohio, for instance. I mean, I should be able to, but I can't. And those things definitely would make CAF more resourceful to collectors to organize meetups. So that's something that Maureen and I have talked about, and hopefully we can, add something to that early this quarter.
Look forward to it. Hopefully, I can try to meet up with you as well one day, like at your home or in a con or something soon.
Yeah, no. I mean, well, my goal for this year. I mean, I've loved doing the live streams. This is the year that I want to get out to more shows and hopefully do more panels. I've been asked to do a panel at MegaCon again, so I've reached out to them about doing it, and I just have to give them an outline now. So I'm excited to do that. I think there's a few other opportunities that I've been talking with the con at Pittsburgh. I haven't reached out to Heroes yet, but I want to do more of that. I think at least getting out there, because it's not like something you typically have panels on original art collecting at the cons. I mean, they're there, but they're it's not a focus. So I want to start doing that. I don't want to rent booth space, but I want to be able to get out there and meet the other collectors and hopefully, convert some people into art collecting just by going out to the cons and being more interactive. Again, something I hadn't done in the first 19 years that I've run CAF. So I feel like this is a turning point for me. And I think, hopefully it's going to be a good moment for the hobby for us to all really appreciate it more. And, after being cooped up for the last 2 years, I think we all want to get out and hang out and enjoy our company so it isn't in this virtual area, but of course I'm going to continue to do this too. But I want to make an effort on that side of things that I never pursued before. So, it's needed. And I'm willing to tackle it as long as some people are willing to show up at some panels over the next couple of years. So
just a quick suggestion, like
sure.
It sort of ties back to the discussion about art belongs in museums and Comic Cons activity now. So it's been done before, but in Singapore as well, we managed to organize a OA gallery show at one of the Singapore cons before the pandemic. So maybe that's something else we could discuss with the con organizers.
It's right with the Pittsburgh show. That was actually one of the things that they wanted. They wanted they wanted me to host a panel. I think on Saturday evening to do just kind of a discussion and maybe some kind of a sale, but they were offering me like 4 booths to do some kind of a gallery during the show, and that I would have to organize, probably try to have to talk to like Berkey and Anthony and a few other collectors maybe in the area and see if I couldn't work out, getting some art there. So yeah, I mean, it was so funny that was what they offered, and that's what you're suggesting, but it makes a lot of sense, right? To be able to put a gallery within the show. I mean, people see artists all the time in Artist Alley, but they see them sketching. They don't necessarily think about buying published artwork. I think that needs to become, be more of a priority, and let people see that not all published OA, starts at $5,000 or $10,000. That you can actually get in, right, or $3 million exactly. If that's all they've read, they're never going to be interested in collecting original art. So trying to educate people on the fact that there are plenty of bargains out there. You don't have to, have the best example for every creator that you might want to own a piece of art for, and those are the kind of conversations and things that I hope to at least spur along and encourage other people to join the hobby and be a part of it, and then be a part of CAF and Comic Art Live and all those things as well. And I don't think any single approach is the best way to grow, whether it's CAF or Comic Art Live. You really have to try many different ways, and so I think getting out in front of people will be helpful. But you've already known that, so that's great. And we will meet. I'm sure. I always tell anybody, if they let me know when you're coming to the States, if you're from out of the country, and what cons you might be going to. And I'm always, if I'm in the area, I'm going to the show, we definitely will make a point of hooking up. And I've never been to the Frazetta Museum. I saw Mel mention that. I met in Pennsylvania. I mean, I've never been over there, and I'm only probably about 4 hours away. I regret that. I mean, I've driven past it probably a dozen times in the last 10 years and never taken the time to stop. And, but those are the things that, again, I hope to change in the future.
One last plug as well. So if any collectors or anyone basically who's interested in OA is visiting Singapore, Malaysia, or any part in Southeast Asia, just reach out to me and I can put you in contact with collectors in that country. We'll be happy to meet up with you all. Yeah, we've done it a few times already for a few American collectors who come to Singapore. Yeah, we organize a small get together and we meet up with them and we get to know them better. Yeah. So and we can also show you around or tell you where to visit, where to eat, stuff like that. No problem.
Right. Well, I'm going to need a lot of advice. If I make it out to Singapore, I will definitely need your help there, because
we'd be more than happy to host you. Don't worry. Yeah. Because as I mentioned, Singapore is kind of like a little financial hub. So a lot of collectors from the region also come to the Singapore Con and interact with our Singapore OA community. Mm-hmm. Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines. Yep. So we'd be happy to host anyone. OA, comic books, whatever. A place to eat, no problem.
Yeah, Mikhail's saying it's going to be my world tour. And hey, I didn't put, I think I put it in the description on YouTube, but I'll put Dick's gallery link here in the chat too, so you can head on over to his gallery. Leave some likes and some comments during and after the show, everybody. That's always one of the benefits of being on the show is getting to do a little PR for your collection. So I forgot to do that to start things off, but I mean, well, I guess, do you have plans to come to the States before we start looking at some art? I'm just curious. Is that something that you were do you have plans to come to the States this year, or to get to one of the bigger shows or anything?
Hopefully NYCC this year.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I mean, by then we'll have like 4 or 5 different index boosters, and
right,
we should be immortal enough to.
I would think so.
The next stream on the next area. No.
No, I know. That's well, I'm hoping to go to New York as well, San Diego and Heroes, and it looks like MegaCon now, and then whatever the Pittsburgh show is, I think in June. So I think I've got, barring us getting locked down again, I think I'll be doing 5 shows at least this upcoming year. So that'll be good, and maybe more as time goes by. I mean, I know there's a few other shows in Florida that once I get down there that I might want to check out. Sorry, just reading through the chat as well. Bill and ML's excellent adventure. Yeah, you're going to see that tomorrow, Johnny. So, well, why don't we look at some art? I mean, you've talked about some of your preferences, and the themes that you like already, and it's going to be very well exhibited here in the first couple pieces that you selected to show off. So, let's see here. Why don't we show the first piece in your list? And here we go. It's this is from Iron Man 55. This is a great page.
Yeah, thanks. I was lucky to get it. So as I mentioned, I was a Thanos fan from like early adulthood. So when I started collecting back in 2011, 2012, my focus was around Thanos stuff. And fortunately, at that point in time, he wasn't a household name. He hadn't appeared on screen yet. So a lot of his art wasn't. He always commanded somewhat of a premium, but not that bad. And the main problem with Thanos art at the time was that it was not available. I think there wasn't enough interest or price increases to tempt people to sell. So I had to do a lot of legwork to find stuff. But this one I got from an auction. What is it? It's Iron Man 55. And, actually this is the first time you see his face up in the top right hand corner there. That's the first time you see his face ever.
Well, everybody's blown away, as you can tell by all the comments. But no, this is a great page, and and as you said, if you were picking you picked this up before the movies and everything, that was a wise decision on your part.
This one I got after the movies had started. After he appeared in Avengers 1, I think. But there was a very big lag between time taken for the price increases to hit OA versus their appearance in like the MCU. Comic books, there's a very hot speculative linkage between the appearances and price increase. But for Thanos, at that point in time, no, I think it took many years actually for his prices to start moving up, even after he had appeared in Avengers 1.
Sure.
So, I mean, that was good for me in a sense, but it's moved pretty fast since then. And actually the bottom 3 panels are the origin of Drax. Yeah. So it's quite a significant page, and for those cosmic being fans, that this embodied head in the second panel is actually Kronos, which is like the god of time and one of the Thanos' ancestors, and that's his dad as well. So this is Kronos' first appearance as well. This page, and I've been in contact with the owners of the previous 2. This is the third page that he appears in Iron Man 55. So I've spoken with the other 2 owners of the page 1 and 2. And it's always like a merry-go-round. It's like, do you want to sell? You want to sell? Let me know.
You're each always asking the other if.
And somehow the price is never enticing enough, no matter how high, and it just keeps going higher and higher and higher. Oh well, at this point in time, I'm like, okay, at least I know where they are.
Right, exactly. But no, I get it. That's but what a fantastic historic page. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, this is a doozy, as we say on the channel. So congratulations for picking this one up. But yeah, wow. So no, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Let's see. Got second piece here. This is.
I mean, it's just a smattering, like a chronological smattering of my Thanos art. So that was his first appearance. This was from his first big storyline. The early Captain Marvel Thanos appearances with the Cosmic Cube. So I also managed to get this before all the price spikes, luckily. And so he's known for Cosmic Cube and Infinity Gauntlet. And I have a lot of Infinity Gauntlet pages, but the Cosmic Cube one was very hard to find. Very seldom they appear on market. And I managed to get this at I think a Comic Link auction as well. Yeah, quite a few years back. And I think what I found really appealing was, aside from the huge image with him and the cube, is that it was inked by a Synod. It's a Starling Synod page. So that's a pretty notable combination, and which I don't think has occurred since then. Yeah. Aside from this issue, I think. Because most of the inkers for Stalin and Thanos were, I think, like Rubinstein, Esposito and such, and then after that Milgram as well, in the later years, So I'm very happy to have this as well, this Cosmic Cube page. Yeah.
And this was from Marvel feature number 12.
Yeah, so it's somewhere between Captain Marvel, like I don't know, 26, 27, 28, somewhere there. it's part of the same storyline, the same Cosmic Cube storyline. Yeah.
Man, well, I mean, this is a great page again. I mean,
it's good to see Synod inking Thanos. He looks a bit smoother than usual, as is his style. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean it's you can tell it's Synod inks on there, but no, that's again you've got there's several other pieces we're going to see today that are just as impressive, but man, yeah, you've got a good eye, and obviously you're collecting what you love at the end of the day.
Yeah,
and you're doing it at the right time.
That was the main thing. Yeah, so I mean the old adage, collect what you love, and comic art is always expensive. It's true, but in hindsight, so far the market has proven that it is not a mistake to collect what you love and pay the market value at that point in time in history, no matter how expensive it may seem, as long as it's around the market value. I mean, if you're going to pay 10 times market order, then that's your own decision. But
it happens.
I mean, it happens, yeah. But
as we've seen, sometimes doing that helps to kind of set a market at the same time, right? Or at least move a market along a little bit quicker, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
Dino is mentioning, where is it? Dino said that the Marvel feature 12 cover is coming to auction soon.
Oh, yeah. But it doesn't have Thanos on it, so I'm not interested. It's not Thanos on it, I don't think. Yeah. Does it have? I think it's the
I don't know. I'm trying to remember
Brothers.
it myself now too.
I think it's the Blood Brothers and the team.
See, Dino, this should go on a T-shirt. Dino, the more you love it, the cheaper it feels.
And Heritage can use it on their auctions also.
They could. That's right. That's their new sell slogan. Oh man. Let's see. That's funny. Yeah. No. Dino says no Thanos on the cover. So there you go. We have that. All right. Let's take a look at the next piece of art you got here, and of course, this is from Infinity Gauntlet issue 2. Another incredible page. So how did you manage to score this one?
So this I think was like the first stretch purchase I made. This was in 2013, I think. 2012, 2013. Yeah, like I said, Thanos appeared at the end of Avengers in 2012, and I bought this after that came out, and the pricing hadn't really moved for these kind of pages yet, and it appeared on eBay of all places, but through a reputable dealer selling it. So there just wasn't much interest in him at that time, and I managed to win it. It was my first stretch purchase where I really threw everything I had and more at my max bid, and it didn't come anywhere close. Yeah, and it was the only time I tracked an auction for the whole week that it was on eBay. I just kept clicking on it and everything. Because I mean, if you're a Thanos fan or a Cosmic fan or whatever, you look at it and Perez fan, and yeah, you just buy it. I mean, you cannot not have it. You cannot lose it, right? Yeah. So
no.
Yeah, and it's like bigger than the Thanos on the cover to one. The Gauntlet is it's just So I was very lucky, and then even after I won it on eBay, a few really really notable big time collectors were like, "Do you want to sell it?" And why don't you just buy it on eBay? And they're, "Oh, I missed it on it." No. Yeah.
Well,
but
I know.
I don't have much to say. I mean, I look at it also. I'm like, just. Yeah.
So, I mean, with so many great pieces of art in your collection, I mean, how do you store most of your art? Just out of curiosity, do you?
So Singapore is on the equator.
Right, because it's very humid there, right? So what do you do?
And it's humid all year round. So the first few pieces I bought, luckily they weren't the most high value ones. I framed up, and it didn't go well. They start foxing after a few years,
right?
Even if you keep it in an aircon room. So all my pieces now are stored in either climate controlled rooms, like they have constant climate control, like mainly dehumidifiers, and the rest are in Mylas in digital dry cabinets. So those dry boxes where you keep cameras and stuff. I have to buy the fridge size ones, the biggest ones you can find, and you can actually fit 13 by 19 portfolios or Mylas flat into those kind of fridges or cabinets. Yeah, so that's where I keep most of the art. so I don't see them much. But part of being a collector is just knowing that you have them there. And
Right. Well, that's
but,
unfortunate. I mean, so did you have to, do your own research, or was there another collector in Singapore that kind of gave you advice on what to buy and how to store it, or how did you kind of come to that method for storing your original art there?
research. I read up articles on the internet, all like the LOC and all kinds of libraries on how they preserve paper.
Mm-hmm.
Just to try to arrive at the optimum temperature and humidity. Temperature is hard to control here because it's always hot. But humidity, at least you can control it.
Yeah.
So if you keep it in a dark room, you can maintain temperature, and the humidity you put it in the dehumidifying cabinets. Yeah. So I tried dehumidifying a whole room, which is doable, but it's resource intensive.
Mm-hmm.
So a more efficient way was just to buy these cabinets. I didn't know that they were in such big sizes because my main concern was that you couldn't fit them lying down, the OA lying
Right.
down in portfolios. Because I don't really want to have them standing up all the time.
No, I agree. I've actually never owned a fireproof cabinet, but when I moved down to Florida, I felt like that's one of the things that I want.
Oh yeah, in Florida.
Yeah. Just
Florida,
because. Yeah.
Buy those. Yeah, the same kind of humidity as Singapore at some points of the year. Yeah, so you will definitely need some kind of dehumidifying equipment, but they do exist. So it's good to know. 13 by 19 can lie face down in the cabinet. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be doing my research. You can send me an email for exactly what you bought.
Yeah. I can give you
I'll share it with
model
everybody
name
too.
and all that. I think it was from a Singapore manufacturer, but.
Right, but just to understand that the basic mechanics of it, so that I can look for something similar.
Yeah.
But I had the same when I was looking at just fireproof cabinets. I was doing exactly what you're doing. I was trying to find one that would fit a 13 by 19 flat, because I didn't want to have something that I had to be standing them up. So I didn't want to look for like something that might have been like a gun cabinet that might have been too narrow and wouldn't allow that. I wanted to find something that was more of a document storage fireproof cabinet. That and I was finding them. They're not cheap, and I'm sure it's what you're talking about is even more expensive. But
no,
I would look into that.
Like I think
really?
It's quite surprising. Yeah, like those fridge size dry cabinets, like $1,000 US. Like it's nothing. It's nothing compared to the cost of what's inside. Yeah, and in Florida you will definitely need it. Even if you buy a safe, you'll need to put some kind of drying agent inside the safe.
Right. Yeah. No, definitely. Let's see. I was just reading through the chat a little bit, but let's see. Dave says he uses a fire safe with those packets that absorb moisture and humidity. Yep. I know there's some things that I've done a little bit of research. That's something to see again. I know Jeff Wedding is in the chat, as he mentioned the thing about humidity, temperature, and light. Those are the big three that you always have to avoid. But yeah, we need to do more research with CAF and put some more more informative articles out there about art storage and different ways to preserve your collection. And I know that with Jeff, we're going to be putting some CAFU pieces together that talk more about that. But there's always things like this that I might overlook or not think about. But I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I can send you links for those packets you're talking about, because some come in little packets, but those are ineffective. You got to buy those like small box kinds that gather water over a few months, and then you just throw them away and put a new box of inside. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, I live in humidity all my life, so I can share with you how to preserve art.
I'm gonna have to learn a lot when I move down to Florida, but I'm ready. I'm willing to do it because like I told you before we started, I still have 2 feet of snow outside, and I can't stand it here anymore. So let's look at some more Thanos art. Here is
okay, not so many more, guys. Don't worry. It's very repetitive. So this is okay. Yeah. So this is later in Infinity Gauntlet. So that was a George Perez, and then this is a Ron Lim from a tie-in issue. This was one of the first 2 pieces I ever bought, actually.
Really?
From and I do like it was 2011, 2012, where I was just cold calling everybody on CAF who had nice Thanos pieces that I hope to have, and a few replied with what I thought were reasonable even though they were NFS, they replied with reasonable counter offers or prices. So yeah, it's just very fortunate timing, and yeah, I don't really have advice on how to get started now, because the pricing and I think the whole expectation has kind of moved. But just buy what you love, lah. So I mean, this was like the biggest Ronlin Thanos I think that he's ever done, even to date, and it has the Gauntlet as well. And yeah, it was probably the one of the most wanted piece that I had in mind when I was cold calling people on CAF. And once again, thanks to CAF, right? If not, there's just no way that I would have gotten started. And the collector very kindly agreed to letting me have it for a reasonable price, I thought. And yeah, to this day, it's still, I think, my favorite Ron Lim Thanos image. You know, the muscularity and the proportions are just spot on. And yeah, if you're talking about Infinity Gauntlet, you want some Perez and you want some Ron Lim.
Yeah, without
I'm
question.
very lucky to have a bit of both. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I just love this. But sadly, this one was one of those that I framed up early, and it has a few foxing marks on the borders now. Yeah. But those can be removed through a restorer if I really want to.
Mm-hmm.
But I've moved it to a climate-controlled location now, so the foxing has sort of stopped spreading. But there's a few in the upper right corner now. Yeah, but not on the art. Very fortunately, not on the art. Even the mole knew how to stay away from that. Thank goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's true. That's something that's easily corrected if you can get it to a restorer. So as long as it's not getting any worse, then yeah, you're in good shape there. Yeah. But so yeah, I saw Mel said yay to cold calling. So it's yeah, that's something that we don't really talk about on CAF, but I mean it is something that happens, that people do a lot and receive a lot of, as far as just if you're ever in the market to sell something. So have you had a lot of success with cold calls? When you're looking at things? No.
No. Once again, it's just one of those points in time that it's just pure serendipity. I just sent out those cold calls out of the blue. I didn't know anyone at all, and piece they replied instantly with very reasonable offers, even though they were NFS. And I snapped it up. And even through those cold calls, the collectors who didn't have anything to sell, they don't want to part with that. Sorry, 1 second.
No,
they don't want to part with their stuff. Oh yeah, they don't want to part with their stuff. We became good friends because we had common interests, like Thanos art, Stalin art, Infinity Gauntlet.
So it worked out one way or another. You didn't get to buy the art, but you made a connection in the hobby,
friends,
right?
Yeah, and eventually I did get some of that stuff.
but well, that's part of it. That's part of it. I mean, we've always talked about having friends in the hobby. Even ones that you're competing against is a good thing. I mean, at the end of the day, sometimes somebody will just say, hey, I found this piece. I was offered this piece. I don't really want it. Maybe you might want it. So, I mean, that's a big networking is imperative.
Yeah. To this very day, most of the good buys and the really A pieces are through networking, friends just letting you know who has what. And most of the time, they are, especially nowadays, the values are really, really high, but at least you know where they are and that they are available.
Knowledge is power.
That they exist
in this hobby.
Yeah.
So that's a great thing. I mean, we can. I think about my early days, which was when it was very archaic in the hobby, with where the dealers kind of knew where everything really was, and not all collectors did, and that was the advantage. Most dealers of the day had on people was they knew where everything was, and today I think it's far more open. Most collectors know where most pieces are, and it's a much leveler playing field than it was 22, 25, 30 years ago. When that's just how things were at that time. And, so I think it's great. You'd say the internet and CAF and everything, and everything from social media onward has helped, make everything a more fair playing field for everybody. But again, it's what's the thing that then is the advantage over the level playing field are those relationships that you make with other collectors to help you out. So, yes.
So cold calling, you're right. Use CAF and just cold call everyone who has similar interest to you. It doesn't matter whether you want anything from them or not. You will still end up expanding your circle of of friendship and knowledge. And yeah,
There you go,
there's no
James.
downside to it. There's no downside to it. You just cold calling through CAF. Yeah. Some people call me like one of the guys in Singapore that I found through CAF was like, yeah, he stalked me, like a stalker, like yeah, whatever. Okay. We're still friends.
Hey, most people that feel you're stalking, actually, they actually appreciate it in their own way. I mean, it's because it's nice to know that you have things that are. I mean, at the end of the day, people are showing off the artwork because they want to get comments. They want to, they like the appreciation for the art. It's what CAF's all about. Yeah. So I don't think. I mean, some people might get a little bit annoyed because there are collectors who are kind of on the fringe. They're showing their art on CAF because, all right, their friend twisted their arm to do it. So some people might not appreciate it, but by and large, I think most people do.
Yeah, I mean, those who don't appreciate it just don't reply. I mean, it's no skin off your
right.
back.
Well, I've had people, literally, they've asked for the feature of being able to turn off the ability to get contacted. I mean, it happens about once a year, but it's usually one of those collectors who really felt like they were kind of pressured to make their CAF, and they like having it out there so people can see it, but they don't want to be bothered with offers. And if it's not just blanketly block everybody, it's I want to block this guy from who asks me once a month if I want to sell that piece, and I've never added either of those features. So unfortunately, I don't satisfy that need, and I probably should, because it is important to some people. Some people they might feel they're being badgered by a particular collector, and they just want to make it so that person just goes away. And I always felt like if I added that feature, that the collector would just create a second account to communicate through, or because I feel like I'd have to tell them this person has opted not to receive emails from you anymore. I'd have to say something like that, and then it would just make people create multiple accounts, and then it would just be a mess, and there'd be more accounts on CAF than I would want to have on there. So, but I've thought about it.
Problem. Just live with it, just ignore it.
That's why I said just ignore it. Just delete it. That's what I tell them. Just I'm sorry, I can't. I'm not gonna. We've never added that feature. I always tell them I'll make a note of it, but it's just not something I'd ever want to activate. It's just not. I know you can do it in forums, and it's kind of commonplace. On Facebook, you can block people from your page, and everybody is used to being able to control their social presence in some ways. So I don't know. See, now I'm talking myself back into it all of a sudden, because it is kind of what the features that are allowed today. I mean, on CGC boards, I think you can block people from being able to communicate with you, and as well. So I mean, it's a feature that's out there that people are sort of getting used to, but I don't know. We'll see. And as Mel said, some people are introverts in general. That is true as well, Mel. All right, so let's look at some more artwork here. We got about 16 pieces to look at tonight, and it's another Thanos piece. This is a really awesome page as well.
Yeah. So this is from Angel Medina.
Yeah,
it's probably the most underrated artist in my mind. Because if you like the McFarlane style, he's like the protege to McFarlane. He sort of took over, the Kiss Psycho Circus and some other stuff from McFarlane, and brought it to another level in terms of the, the exaggerated muscularity and physicality, the way over the top rendering and such. But he does it in a way that's distinctly his, and it's not offensive to my eye, at least. So he did one issue of Warlock and Infinity Watch that crossed over with Infinity War, and it had Thanos versus his own clone. And as a child, this was one of the cosmic comics that really resonated with me. It was from a 10-cent bin or something, but I mean, the artwork was just out of this world, and it was like, Thanos was just Thanos, and it was just, and I wasn't even a Thanos fan at this time. Yeah, he's Superman's McFarlane. Yes, correct. Yeah, that's what I think. But he really gets almost no recognition. But I mean, just look at it. It's just the posturing, the facial expressions, the amount of detail in it, the care that went into the crafting of these kind of pages, and I was very lucky to find 4 or 5 pages from one collector many years ago, from this very issue that was kind of my childhood introduction to Thanos, that I guess planted the seed to my Thanos fandom later on in life. Yeah. So this is one of those 4 pages.
Yeah, you have another page from this issue, page 2, and that Thanos versus Thanos image. I mean, the whole page is just unbelievable. But this is I love this page. I love the storytelling on this page. But I mean, the battle page is nice. But yeah, if anybody checks out your gallery, you should also check out the other pages you have by Angel, because
so Angel Medina, if anybody has his cosmic stuff, please let me know. It's and yeah, he's very underrated, but so sell it to me at a low price, please.
See, that's the problem. I mean, that is always another pratfall of comic art collecting, right? It's like the moment people know you really want something, it's like that's when you raise the price on. At least when you get asked by that guy. That's one of the, what are you going to do, right?
But yes, but actually that does help to get art out there, like. Because I mentioned, when I first started collecting, no one cared about Thanos stuff. There was nothing available. No Infinity Gauntlet. There was no sales history of Infinity Gauntlet even on Heritage or anything. Infinity Gauntlet, Ron Lim, Silver Surfer stuff. There's no availability, no sales history, nothing. Because there wasn't enough motivation, I think, for sellers to get around to putting them out on the market. So
there is now.
It does require some financial push to get the art out there. I mean, even for myself or a lot of collectors, I'm sure it's not worth the hassle to go and market things or package them, negotiate, blah blah blah, ship them. If there's no real very strong motivator to do so, and it's just a reality of collectibles, I think. But so I mean, I don't mind paying. If you can show me the piece, I'll be happy to see.
Right.
If you can talk at least,
So if anybody has any Angel Medina pieces out there,
cosmic stuff,
any cosmic stuff,
he did a few other issues of War Infinity Watch with like Eternity. Wow, I can't imagine a Medina Eternity or Galactus. There was a cover he did with Galactus. Oh my goodness. Whew.
Well, speaking of, let's take a look at the next page here. This is Marvel Universe The End page, DPS, James, from issue 4.
So this was the other piece. These were part of the first 2 pieces that I bought from 2 different collectors, but they responded within a few days of each other. So this was from my adult nostalgia period when I was reading like cosmic stuff in my 20s and such. I remember this page as one of those landmark moments. I mean, Thanos just walks into Galactus' ships and and just busts his ass. I mean, nobody does that, right?
Oh no.
Yeah. So the page before, he basically teleported in, and then Galactus was like, "What are you doing here?" And then he just blasts him. So it's like, that's why I love Thanos. It's, and I mean, later on in the issue, he got busted up too, but he knew that going in, and he had a plan. There was a reason he went in to fight Galactus barehanded, without any enhancements or such. So when I saw this on CAF during that time when I was just starting as well, I was like, oh, look at that piece, I recognize it. And I just emailed the owner. Yeah.
Was it West?
Yeah. Hi, West. It's still here. 11, 12 years later, it's still there. Don't worry. Yeah. It's in good shape as well. Yeah. And once again, it was very fairly priced, and for what it is, and so these 2 were like the genesis of my collecting.
Well, I'm glad that CAF played a role in
it did. Really I mean, without CAF, I wouldn't have been able to start collecting OA, because the people that I met through CAF as well were like the support net system and the network that grew up around me, and without CAF's exposure into what kind of art was out there, what artists, what titles, there'd be no education available to me in getting into OA collecting. Like before I bought my first piece of OA in like 2012, I spent about a year, just reading through the CGC OA forum,
right?
Browsing CAF, looking at like auctions and dealer sites to try to understand the markets and the prices and the availability and such. before buying anything.
You didn't jump right in, so that's good.
No.
You actually did the
I was
research.
actually much more
beforehand.
circumspect when I first started than I am now. So I mean, like the reverse. Most people they come in and they buy everything.
That's that's what I did. I was like, I've got, I was at a show. I was like, I've got X amount of dollars left in my pocket after I completed their comic book run, and I'm like, I'm just going to spend it all on original art now that I've found it. And so I made those mistakes early on. I did no research. I didn't take a year to understand the market before I started buying. Lots of mistakes early on for me.
Everybody still has mistakes and regrets. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but you have to focus on your wins because, I mean, if you can afford to buy OA, your life is already
right.
good.
You're doing all right. Right. Exactly.
Okay in life.
Oh man. So this is a Marvel Universe. Let's see. Yeah, Marvel Universe. The end page.
Yeah. So actually, the previous DPS was from the Thanos miniseries by Starlin.
Oh, that's right. It was Thanos 5. I'm sorry.
In the early 2000s.
Yeah, my bad on that one.
Yeah. And then this is around the same time, early 2000s also, but this is from the end. So as a cosmic fan, right? So I started off as like a Thanos fan. Then you read enough cosmic stuff, you get introduced to all of the cosmic beings and such. And then I just got sucked into the Marvel cosmic realm because, compared to like Earthbound heroes or the conventional characters, this was just, in my mind, just another level of, bombastic creativity and conceptualism, having all these embodiments of concepts of interacting, and I mean the design was and always will be just absolutely genre busting psychedelic kind of aesthetic, right? Like you got a guy with 3 floating heads, a guy with a really big head, like a guy who looks like the universe. I mean, it's just, but they all make sense. They all interact in a cohesive manner, in the storytelling, and they all have distinct character designs and distinct powers and distinct roles. So I think I've moved on a bit from being just a Thanos fan, and I think I'm more of a general Marvel cosmic fan nowadays. Whenever I see anything with, Eternity, Galactus, Living Tribunal, In-Betweener, Celestials, I just have to throw bits at them. And I don't always win, but I always want to win. Yeah, there was actually one point where I think I had too much Galactus stuff, and I was like constantly telling myself to stop buying Galactus. But that was only for a year or so. Then I was like, I don't have enough, so I just keep buying.
You don't have. Yeah. Well, so do you ever sell, or I mean, are you more? Are you a collector?
No, I have several pieces that I buy that they look under market, but also that I have interest in.
Mm-hmm.
Then if the time comes when there's time to free up the cash, or I'm not so interested in those pieces, I do let some go, but generally when I buy, I'm very conscious of whether it's really for my permanent collection or it's just a nice to have. Yeah, so
Sure.
those permanent collection ones I never sold. I'll never change my mind on selling any from the permanent collection, but those that when I bought, I was like, this is nice to have, and it looks like good value.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, right. Well, clearly you've got some really great pieces, and because of your passion for the cosmic stories, I mean, it's just understandable. So people can email you about those pages, but they're never leaving your collection.
I mean, 3.36? Let's go for a new record.
Okay, all right. So never say never. Never say never.
Yeah. I mean, I can publicize it on Bleeding Cool or that also. No problem.
Right. No, I know. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Let's see. So let's look at another piece here. This one is from what is this? Warlock Chronicles #2, Eternity.
Yeah, so this is
a great page. This is beautiful.
Like one of my best friends is actually not an OA collector, but like I mean he collects contemporary art. And I don't like to use the term fine art because comic art to me is fine art. Right?
Yes.
So but he collects contemporary art. and he was like, like this page he wants to buy. Like, He has no idea what it is, but he was like, yeah, he keeps badgering me for it. I'm like, no, because to me this is the best eternity page ever produced. Yeah, it's from the storyline just after Infinity War ended, and Eternity is going to break up the Gauntlet, the 6 gems, because it's too powerful for use anymore. Yeah, and
this is by Tom Rainey, and
this is by Tom Rainey. And his art is still dirt cheap. Right, dirt cheap.
It is too. I mean, it's incredibly. I mean, I've never
Because
understood. I love Tom's work. Yeah,
and he has a distinctive style. You know, having a distinctive style is part of your market value. Like, people can actually identify your work, and and he's a huge body of work. So he's another great entry point for collectors. And he's worked on everything, right? X-Men, Avengers, everything. So
right.
So Tom Rainey, if you're new to the field and you want to get into some of these bigger name characters, Tom Rainey art is still really affordable. This page I managed to buy off a heritage auctions in many years ago for a few $100. It was a steal even at the time. And since then I managed to assemble the prior page and the next 2 pages to sort of complete the 4-page sequence where Warlock is interacting with Eternity. Yeah, one of my good buddies, who was also a huge Marvel cosmic collector that I was introduced to through my cold calls from the start, actually agreed to a deal recently for the page 7 and 8 after this, which has more Eternity and Warlock interacting, but not any full figure splashes like this, and also a few more Infinity War pages, which when I first started collecting, I said that's my so-called grail. Like, if I get that Infinity War page, which I don't have it yet, but we've come to a deal for it. Like, well, if I get that, I'm done. But of course, that's just a lie. No, yeah, but it's good to have it finally. Yeah.
That's
that
page right there. That's one of my favorite pages.
The
pieces you put out there too. Just so you know, I mean, I love that page. It's incredibly beautiful, and it's funny. It's funny that your fine art collecting friend, sees the beauty in it as well, even though they don't know anything about the storyline or anything. It's just a wonderfully rendered page.
Yeah, and just interestingly, his other attraction to comic art is like Kirby 60 stuff, because it's so, I don't know, cubism. I don't know. It's he enjoys the geometric designs of Kirby machines.
Sure.
And his character designs. So he wanted to buy one of those Lord of Light.
One of those Lord of Light. Yeah.
It came out many years ago on Heritage or something. I think he went after one of them. Yeah.
Did he get it?
No. Even then, they were 5 figures, I think.
Right.
Yeah. But.
All right. Now this piece will look familiar to everybody since it's.
So this is the correct orientation for it. Yes.
Yes.
So, this is my favorite cover, I think, ever. Yeah. It's from, I think, the 90s. So it's actually a painting over mechanical reproduction of Hubert pencils. And I've also spoken with the pencil owner to, of course, if you want to sell, you sell. Then he'll be, you want to sell the painting? It's the same circle again. You want to sell the okay. But it was the painting that really attracted me from the start. This is one of those I bought off the newsstand. And when I saw it on the newsstand, I thought it was some kind of, this was in the 90s, right? So I thought it was computer-generated art or something. But I didn't know computers could be so advanced. And I always thought there was some computer rendering to it, actually. But I managed to snag this in another Clink auction many years ago. And when I won it, I emailed Ken Stacy, who is the painter. And I asked him, what he did to it, because when the art arrived and I looked at it, I was like, this is exactly as it looks published, and it still looked CG rendered. in
I
real
mean, it
life.
looks airbrushed, I guess.
Yeah,
Maybe.
so it was so when he replied, it was like there's airbrush, gouache, watercolor, and I don't know some other thing, and what do you call color pencils. So if you see in real life, right, the whole surface of it is uniformly, matte finish. So I was like, how that's why I thought maybe it's still CG rendered. Is there a print or something? He said, no, it's all, yeah, 4 or 5 different kind of media. You have to combine it and blending it. And I mean, the way he blended the lighting effects and the skin effects, the tonal effects, the reflections, it's just mind blowing. Yeah. So to this day, I think it's still my favorite painted piece or cover that I own. It's yeah.
No, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, I'm looking at the published cover to it too, and this is
It's
almost more
exactly the
vibrant than
same.
that. Yeah,
There
yeah.
is
I mean,
no
it's
computer
crazy.
enhancement, but I don't understand how he does it. Even in real life, when you see it, it's like there's no outstanding patches of paint or very obviously airbrush paint areas or color pencil areas. Everything is just blended perfectly. It's and before this, I never even like heard of Ken Stacy then. But after this, I was like, why didn't he do more work? Like, why wasn't he everywhere? And
Yeah.
yeah, I just can't find anything else from him actually.
There's not a well, there's not a lot on CAF either. I mean, I think there's probably only a couple hundred pieces of his probably on the site, but wow. I mean, this is a great pickup. And if you can ever get the those pencils, that would be great to add with this.
Yeah, but that collector is quite private and not really looking to sell. He's got a lot of good stuff as well. So
well,
no, but
yeah.
I mean, once again, right, we're just very fortunate to be where we are and to have what we have already.
Correct.
I don't have this like burning, need to obtain
You don't
more
have to have it.
or envy other people's stuff. I'm just really satisfied with what we have.
Mm-hmm.
And
Nope.
I think a lot of collectors are like that, because everything is one of one, right?
Right. Well, if you
can't-
weren't satisfied, you would just be driving yourself crazy. So, I mean, I think at the end of the day, that's the mantra we always kind of talk about is just being happy with what you have. You can't be jealous of the guy that can spend $3.36 million on something or the guy who can spend $200,000 on something. At the end of the day, that'd be like being jealous of your neighbor because they have a better house or they drive a better car than you. And most people wouldn't be jealous of that. So you can't let that, those feelings carry over into the hobby either. So, it is what it is. People, you can complain about prices and things, but you still just have to appreciate what you have, or you might as well not be in the hobby at all.
Yeah, correct. And the fact that everything is truly one of a kind, handcrafted artwork. Nobody else has what you have, so you always can. But he did spawn one. Oh yeah,
he did spawn 1 and 2. And Sam says he can be jealous all that he wants. Okay, you can, Sam. I mean, that's not a problem. We don't mind.
Yeah, no worries. Come over and see anytime. Yeah, this one I managed to frame up after I learned how to preserve frame paintings. Yeah. So this one is still perfect condition. Because I think mold on painting is a bit harder to restore than just pen and ink. Rocks under grass.
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah.
So yeah,
spawn one. Well, I wonder who has a spawn one, man. Oh, spawn one. Ken Stacy. Maybe Todd still has it.
All right, I understand everybody. We can all pout and jest. I understand. All right, let's see what. This was a really nice page as well. This is what was this? Ghost Rider and Blaze Spirits, I believe. Another DPS for James to break his heart.
No, James has a lot of DPSs which break my heart. He's got a lot of Medina DPSs and all that.
Yes,
I don't know
he
how
does.
They just appear in his gallery and like, I just like, So this is from the same storyline as that Venom cover. It was a 4-part storyline called Spirits of Venom, where Venom, Ghost Rider, Spider-Man all teamed up to fight some demonic stuff in the sewer. What was this? This is
Adam Kubert and Bill Reinhold.
Reinhold and Kubert, yes. And this was my introduction to Kubert art. as a child as well. And also, I think what helped to build my Venom appreciation. I've been fortunate that I think I have two or three other DPSs by Qbert from this series through the years, and yeah, once again, they're huge. They're almost twice up size. Each board is almost twice up size as well. Yeah, and
Wow.
I had, this is probably a nostalgia buy. Yeah, that cover and this are nostalgia buys, and the fact that they were by a real superstar like Qbert is just icing on the cake. And nobody else draws Venom like Adam Qbert. The striation, the musculature, the lighting effects of his costume, the sheen, the sheeny effects, even just through pencil and ink, is quite outstanding to me. Yeah. And once again, I moved to collecting Venom stuff after like Thanos stuff became increasingly expensive. And I got in at the right time, managed to find some Qbert stuff, which is very low on the market. Adam Qbert, any Qbert stuff, because they hang on to most of their things. So most of the stuff that's out there is either through the inkers, or I think Jason at Essential Sequential has been slowly piecing out some of the Qbert brothers' artwork.
Yeah, I mean, he has. I mean, slowly, very slowly.
Yeah, slowly, yeah. Because I mean, I've spoken with them, and I think they're very attached to their artwork. They're one of the artists that really appreciated the artwork from the start as fine art, and they hung on to it because they recognized it for what it was. And it's so good for them. Now they're reaping the rewards of their foresight. They're getting the returns that they're happy with now. Yeah.
Hey, Sean Murphy's in the audience. It doesn't make you want to quit, Sean. It just makes you want to work harder.
Yeah, just cold call. I mean, it's true, Bill. Use CAF and cold call people. I think that's still the best approach now, because the option prices are so not so, right? But if you talk to collectors on a collector to collector level, and they really see that you appreciate, the artists, the characters, the stories, they often
Well, that's one of the big things. I mean, having a CAF gallery is also a form of marketing. If everybody didn't know that, I mean, it does help to have a want list and show what kind of artwork you collect, because at the end of the day, it does. If somebody's got something to sell, they'll usually go to people who already have it, if they to make things a little bit easier. But it all like, I was just emailed from somebody again, at least yesterday, who was asking, can you help me out with this guy? He says he's got a CAF profile, no gallery, and but he's been on the site for 3 years and he's a premium member. I don't understand it, and I'm like, well, I can't vouch for the guy. I don't know him, but the guy was concerned because they were trying to buy something, and they also don't have a CAF gallery. They're not showing any artwork, and that's one way that we kind of I don't know, put a little bit of trust behind somebody, is to actually see that they have a CAF gallery and they're open to sharing it. It shows that they've made purchases before, so it's not some person coming out of the blue who's going to try to scam you. But I always have to reinforce that 40% of the people who log into CAF regularly don't have CAF galleries. It's just how it is. People use it as a communications tool rather than one to share their artwork. But it does help.
To be a premium member, right? At least that shows you have some skin in the game.
That's what I told them. That's why, that was my reply. I'm like, I can't vouch for him, but most people who would be willing to pay $75 to be a premium member on the site, I can't have a negative thing to say about them. So, and they've been a member for 3 years. It's not like they created their account yesterday, have nothing in their CAF gallery, and they're offering you money. Those are the people I would be worried about. And I would always, ask for references before I would sell artwork or to anybody like that. But if they've been on the site for 3 or 4 years, they're bound to be a regular buyer, regular collector. They just don't want to share. So that's the way that goes. It's all right. Let's see here. This is a Venom page, and this is lots of action in this one.
This is my latest pickup, I think. Yep. So I've been trying to get representative Venom pieces from all his early to mid-90s mini-series. So just a bit of background. I think what attracted me to Thanos, Venom, all these anti-heroes is the fact that they were not overexposed as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, until about the last 10 years, I guess, when they really hit the mainstream comic-wise and they started to have their own series and appear everywhere. But prior to 2010, 2000s, they almost never appeared anywhere. So after his first appearances in the ASM titles and one or two other appearances there, he started to pop up again in the early 90s in 3-issue mini-series blocks by different creative teams. And I think this ran from like 92 to the late 90s. But, my focus has been up to about 95. So I've been trying to get good Venom action pages from each of these mini-series. And the rarest one, yeah, Dave, yes, thank you. Yeah. The rarest one by far is the Madness pages, because Kelly Jones tends to hang on to his art. So the only pages out there, I think, are from the inker, probably Beatty. And I've never seen a better Venom page. I've only seen two, right? In 12 years. I've only seen two of the Madness pages. And this is probably my favorite one that I've seen, and the only one that was made available to me as well. Thank you, Dave. It's almost like the final piece in my Venom early 90s collection. I've gotten pages from most of the mini-series already, but I never thought I would get a Madness one, because they are just so rare. And to have one with Venom in full action, huge body shots of him, that ridiculous, ripped musculature. I don't know what 50 lat muscle. I don't know. It's just obscene and absurd. But that's what you love about Kelly Jones' art, right? His musculature on the Batman and Bane and all that is just it's all here. So this is one I thought I wouldn't.
Jones' artwork is very is highly sought after. Obviously,
and I think with good reason. Mm-hmm. It's very rare as well, because he hangs on to a lot of it. And it's very distinctive. And it's from a very sought after period. So on very sought after characters. So.
Congratulations on that recent pickup then. That's
thank you.
And we can thank Dave Kopecki for that transaction. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, this is a pretty cool page as well from X-Force number 4. I mean, look at that. That is so amazing.
So this one, I still gawk at it when I unfurl it and look at it. So what attracted me to Juggernaut? I think if you notice a theme across my collecting taste is that I tend to like huge muscular figures. So in my mind and in my taste, according to my taste, none are more physically massive and intimidating than the Juggernaut. Also because of his costume design, it just sort of all the roundness, that sort of enhances his just pure bulk and mass. So Juggernaut has always stood out to me, not because he is a very interesting character, although he is. I mean, but it wasn't his character or his interactions or personality that attracted me. It is purely his physical design, the design aesthetic of the Juggernaut. And to see this on sale, when was this? I think it was probably 5, 6, 8 years ago, 9 years ago. It was actually going to go up on Comic Link, but for auction, I think. But I managed to contact the collector just through CAF once again. Thank you, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
And I just asked him about it, like, have you sent it off yet? I'd like to make an offer. And he was like, yeah, no, not yet. But if you make a good offer now, it doesn't need to go off. And it was a good offer, and it was fair to me at the time. And I was actually at one of the NYCCs. So at the NYCC, it was a really lousy one for me. I didn't buy any good pieces, but somehow I was on my laptop or something making this deal. And I got it shipped to me instead. And I came back to Singapore. And it's, this is the defining Juggernaut image from my childhood. And actually, ever since then, there is no Juggernaut image in my mind that just represents his sheer physicality more than this page. I mean, he barely fit, his head and torso barely fit into a DPS. It's just absurd. And the fact that it was from, Liefeld at his peak, where he was, he was really unshackled. Rob was just doing whatever he wanted, and it was pure energy, pure passion, pure gusto, and it shines through in Liefeld's art from this period. Like he had a window from the New Mutants, 87, and then up to about X-Force 10. So about 22 issue run where he was really, peak Liefeld, and he was just carefree, and it really shines through in his art. Yeah. So I was very lucky to get it at that time, and since then Liefeld has just taken off with the rest of the Image founders and the other
without question
guys. So once again, buy what you love, and don't really think about future values. But if you can afford it and it is within reason at that point in time, just go for it.
No, you can't go wrong. That's what we all,
I won't say can't go wrong, no guarantees, but so far,
well, you can't be disappointed. Right.
Yeah.
If you buy what you like and you keep within your means, you shouldn't feel disappointed at the end of the day. That's
correct.
Yeah.
Because most other hobbies, you spend the money, you never see any financial return. Or you go on a holiday, or that's it, 10,000 gone. You have some good memories and some photos, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So comic books, comic art, all these collectible fields have always appealed to me, both for the creative and the nostalgic and the artistic pools, as well as the fact that there is a financial element to it, and even nowadays there's a financial investment element to it where you can actually improve your quality of life, which a lot of collectors and dealers and artists have.
Sure. We when I was mentioning, there's a comic art show in San Francisco in a month that Bashar is putting on, and I was making an announcement on the CAF update about that, and I saw in the chat a couple people, and they were saying, cost of admissions $20, children and spouses are free, and I saw people in the chat saying, well, I would never bring my spouse to a show. She'd never let me buy anything, So
but now there's a justification for it.
There is,
financial
definitely. right, exactly.
Yeah, it's not a joke anymore. It is true financial planning. Like, if you track
every spouse should be happy for if they were married to an art collector, an original comic art collector for the last 20 years.
Yeah, because now you can buy your retirement home. You can retire. You can live in comfort for a lot of these people. Forever, actually.
But I didn't comment on it when I saw the chat, saying it, because I was trying to be serious about it. I'm trying to mention this show and talk about it, but I just thought the commentary was funny that people feel they need to hide a few things here or there. It's how it goes sometimes. But all right, let's see. We're going to switch to a color piece here. Another one here. I think this is. What is this? The cover to Incredible Hulk 602.
By Ariel Olivetti. And it's been shared before on one of your shows by
it has.
My buddy, John Wayne.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think he's spoken more eloquently about it than me. And for me, once again, it's like these two powerhouses, especially the Juggernaut and Olivetti's mastery of lighting and texture. Is what draws me to his art. And once again, Olivetti is probably the most aside from Medina, who's the most underrated penciler. I think Olivetti is the most underrated painter in my books. Yeah, it's if you watch some of his videos about how he creates his paintings, once again when I get it in hand, it looks like a print. It's not as clean as Ken Stacy's stuff, but the sheen on it, the texturing on it, it looks like it's printed on or painted on top of like a print or something, but it's not. If you watch his videos, the way he layers up and builds up his pieces, they do turn out that way. They do have that kind of final finished look and sheen. And if you like Del Otto and some of Olivetti's proteges as well, I think I forget his name. He's quite popular now as well. If those guys are moving up and have widespread recognition, of course Alex Ross and all that. I think Olivetti, skill-wise and aesthetically, to me at least, definitely belongs in that conversation. Yeah, but once again, I don't complain. I bought this off, I think, Mark on Splash Page. I think you have a good relationship with him, and for a song, I really think it's a song, and it wasn't that long ago, 5-6 years ago, and he'd been sitting on his site for a while. And I was just browsing one night and I saw it and I was like, is it still available? He said, yeah. And he gave me a price and I was like, what? And I was like, yeah, sure, of course I'll take it. And he's like, done. And then a few years later, I got another Olivetti Cable cover, I think off like a Comic Connect auction. That one was Deadpool versus Cable, for basically the same price, like, couple thousand maybe or less. I was like, I don't understand. How can this be? And to this day, I don't understand why Olivetti's art is so underappreciated. And I think the reason that you don't see any of it available is also because the prices are too low. So once again, it comes back to that point where you need a certain push factor for people to start putting pieces out there. And those are the only two Olivetti painted covers I've ever seen for sale, and I bought them both for under 2K each. It's absurd. It's absurd. It's absurd. So once art is available at reasonable prices still. If you want to look for it.
Well,
yeah.
I believe I had seen this piece before.
It was John.
Nice. Yeah. Wow. Well, like you said, a very underrated artist, and not a lot of their artwork on the market. That is very true. All right, so this is a MCP.
This is a pure nostalgia buy.
Yeah.
So this one was one of my first, 5-cent, 10-cent bin comics that I read as like a 6-year-old or something. And I think Berkey, this was on Mike, I think. Yeah. So this popped up. It popped up just around the time when, there was this transition stage when Larsen and Liefeld were like taking off price-wise from like a few hundred. This page would have cost a few $100, like maybe 800 to 1,000, and then they jumped to like 2,000-3,000. So I bought it somewhere around that region, and then now they jumped to 30,000. So I managed to get this just before the first jump, and it was a pure nostalgia buy. And when I bought it, it was already quite expensive for what it was, but and I justified it by saying, this is Larsen Spidey. At the time, I didn't have any ASM or Larsen Spideys, but since then I managed to get a few, very luckily again. But when I bought this, I had no Larsen Spidey, and I was like, this is Larsen Spidey from the same time as his ASM work, and this is Larsen Wolverine, which doesn't exist, and it's going sneak, and it's like, okay, I can sort of justify the price, and then and I mean, since then, it's just it's still gone up 10-20 times since then, but still, So actually, this brings me back to my point about the Image founders and the other hot like early 90s guys like the Huberts, Joe Matt, all that. It's like even when I started collecting in 2012, I told some of my buddies who collected around the same time as me, because in Singapore, luckily some of my good friends also started to collect around the same time, the same interest areas. And I was like, I think the next thing that's going to explode is the 90s guys, the Image founders, because demographically, right, that was like the last renaissance of comic art. There was a huge reader base in the early 90s to the mid 90s still. It was really popular.
Very true.
And these were the superstars of the time. Right? They were really rock stars, right? I mean, if you go and read the articles about their signings, they commanded rock star lines for their signings and appearances. Like thousands of people would turn up to try to meet them and get an autograph, like around the block and all that. Liefeld, Todd, Jim, even in the 90s. And lastly, their body of work from their prime period in Marvel is minuscule, absolutely minuscule, because they were very lazy people who made a lot of money very fast, and then they stopped. No, Jim and Todd, continue, and then they all continued, but I'm just being facetious, minuscule. Like if you look at, let's say Liefeld New Mutants, Liefeld X-Force. Like one of my articles I wrote, I did a study on their body of work to try to illustrate how rare their stuff is, their prime stuff is, versus how much demand there is, and why, given those two factors, are they not on the same level as like Kirby's and stuff? because I mean Kirby is the man, Buscema, Ramita, all that, but their body of work is like in the thousands of pages out there. But like Rob has like 20 issues, like New Mutants X-Force 20 issues.
Right.
Jim, X-Men AX and UXM 30, 40 issues. Larson about 30, 40, but some of the ASM stuff got burned in his house fire. Right, so it's very rare. So I mean, yeah. So I kind of knew like from the 2013, 2014 that the 90s superstars were going to be hot, but once again, there was no availability aside from like Jim and Todd. The other stuff just wasn't out there because the pricing wasn't set yet, so nobody had an incentive to sell.
Mm-hmm.
So I managed to gather what Liefeld's, Larson's, and a few McFarlane's, what I still could, and then eventually when it started to come onto the market, decided to set higher and higher prices, and then that just feeds itself, and more came out, and then now, Larson, Spidey's is like in the 30,000, 40,000 range, and McFarlane's are in the same range and all that. Yeah. So, so one of my regrets is that, like, even when all this was happening, I kind of knew Silvestri was the next one because he was the last Image founder. I mean, Image had 7 founders, and then the big 5, right? And then there was Wills, and I mean, no offense to the artistic skill, but there was Wills and Jim, and I think Wills left early because he had some family issues, and Jim just never worked on a title that was big enough to propel him to like superstardom, like X-Men or Spider-Man or the X titles. So there was a big 5, and 15, Liefeld and Larson were taking off already, and Silvestri was still cheap, but there was no availability, and I kept waiting for Silvestri to come out and try to buy what I could, but there was just nothing. And then, in the last 2-3 years, they just hit the market on Heritage at 2,000, 3,000 a page, and then the market's been building since then, and but no really good Silvestris have come up yet. Like, even just
I complained about the lack of good Silvestris.
But even then, they're fetching used to be 2K, and then 3K, now 5K, and then now Wills is 10K. But it all makes sense. In my mind, I expected this, but I didn't expect it to this extent, this fast.
Right.
But
it's good.
But it does make sense. Like, given the supply and the demand, it's perfectly understandable. Yeah.
I agree. And hey, I wanted to note, I've always appreciated it when people put the published pieces, pages as an auxiliary image on their stuff. And I know you do that with some frequency in your CAF gallery. So I really appreciate that, because I think it's always good to have that as a reference point. I mean, I don't demand or tell people that they have to do that, but I appreciate it as a collector, because I always like to look at the published page when it's available, and almost always do. So it's something that I would, I'm glad that you do it, and I would encourage other collectors to do the same thing on CAF.
Yeah, it contributes to your online comic database resource as well. It's fun to see how many published pages are from a certain book are available on.
Mm-hmm. No, and it's a good reference to new collectors as well, I think, to kind of get an understanding for what this is what you saw in the comic, and this is what it looks like, here in its original form. So I like having that kind of comparison. So let's see, we got a couple more pieces here, and this is a great. I love this Ghost Rider, another DPS.
I love it too. Yeah. So I'm highlighting this for a few reasons. Firstly, it's because it's just phenomenal image-wise. It's a Ron Garney from one of the gimmick books of the 90s, Ghost Rider 50, which is actually quite a notable one, I think. And it's, once again, it's slightly oversized, and it's probably the biggest Ghost Rider I've ever seen. And the pose is just spot on, lighting spot on, the skull flames perfect, and the other really notable point about this is that I didn't buy or pay for it at all. It was actually from a agreement I came to with another collector, which is it's an interesting story. That's why I'm sharing it. So we were both going after this other piece on an auction site, quite an obscure auction site, very high profile piece, but nobody was bidding on it because nobody knew about it. And one of our other friends in the group let us know about it. And then on the day of the auction, I placed a bid, because we were talking about it, and it was like nobody was bidding, so I already placed a bid. And then my other friend came in and was like, "Oh dear, I didn't know you already placed the bid. I was also playing the bid for it. And it was just two of us. It was very obvious. Because it's a very, very, very good piece, very high profile. I mean, so that piece, in the end, we came to agreement that, in a few minutes before the auction ended, he was like, he showed me this piece a few days before, this Ghost Rider, and I really loved it and all that. He was like, okay, how about I give you this piece, and then you just let me do the bidding. And then I was like, okay, fine, yeah. I knew that, if I stepped aside, he would get it for what he got it at, which was a superb deal for what it was, and it's probably worth. He made a lot of money on it, but the end story is that we are both super happy, right? And this is once again from networking and befriending other collectors, right? So he ended up with a fantastic example from one of the highest profile artists out there from the prime period, and he's very happy with it, I'm sure. And I ended up with this piece which I really loved, and he showed it to me a few days before, and I was like, my God, how do you get all this stuff? And so everything worked out in the end, right? So everyone is really happy in the end. So and it all just comes about through networking, cold calling, CAF, talking to friends. This particular collector I met through writing my articles, and then we became very close. And then he invited me to several chat groups and all that. So just engage in any way you can. There's no downside to it, really. Like if the side outside of people contacting you about things you don't want to talk about, just don't reply to them. But everything else is upside. And the upside is huge. Huge.
No, I completely agree. Let's see, we got another pair of bulky characters here on this last artwork that you sent me.
I thought I ended on a fun one.
Oh yeah, this is great.
So I like the massive, muscular characters, and this popped up on Clink a couple of years back only, and it's a memorable one because of the imagery firstly, and even the tagline on top, mutant muscle meets mutant mass. It's like the alliteration, and wow, and it's so on point. And this is by Kerry Gamble, and Guido. If you like big bulky characters, Strong Guy is the epitome of the exaggerated upper body, and Kerry's art of Guido here. Wow, the venation and the striation contrasted against the blobs, bulk and bulkiness is. I never had a emotional connection to this cover, but when I saw it again for auction at Clink, I was like, I have to win this one. Just look at it, and once again it was 2-3 years ago, just before everything went berserk again. So it was for a very fair price, but I thought I did on a nice, fun note, Not everything is serious, buy 1970s Thanos stuff, and this is pure 90s goofiness, which is still at an affordable price range. Yeah.
No, this is I always thought this was an interesting cover.
Yeah.
Blob has always been one of my secret favorite villains. So
why secret? No need to make his secret.
I don't know. Because he's not. I don't think he's very popular in general. As a character.
So it's better for you, right? You say I want to buy block, and then you get all the block art for cheap, and then idiots like me will come to you and say, "Hey, Bill, you want to sell your block?"
That's right. See, if I thought about it like that, but no, I don't know. It's for me, I always thought he's kind of like this tragic character, so I've always kind of just enjoyed him. As a villain, I kind of take pride in liking some characters that aren't just all about superpowers and everything. And I was, he has his own techniques in battle, but at any rate, there you have it, everybody. Thor, Wolverine, and the Blob, right up there at the top 5 or 6 characters for me out there. But man, this has been a lot of fun, Dick. The thing is, I had read some of your articles back in the day. I remember, I remember when you were doing that, and I regret that we didn't really chat too much about it. But I'm glad that you did it, and I'm glad that those articles are still out there. At the end of the day, we need more content like that to encourage new collectors to come out of the woodwork and share stuff on CAF and to grow the hobby. So kudos to you. And you have a great approach to the hobby too. And you did things really right at the right time, as far as like getting in while things, those pieces were still really affordable. And now you can, and I admire the fact that like you said, you waited an entire year to research before you made your first purchase. I mean, I don't think that that is not common, among the OA collectors. It's usually the exact opposite. That's how we approach it. So, so what other words of wisdom can you give us this evening as far as collecting? I think we probably hit on most things, but what are your parting thoughts as far as like how to become a better collector and be savvy about the market?
Engage.
Engage. Yeah.
Engage in any way that you can, and really, please, more collectors, please try to set up, platforms like Bill's, write articles, do interviews, do whatnot sales, appear at cons, be reps, whatever. Just try to grow our hobby, because
sure. Well, we're having a really big get together at the Heroes Con if you can make it out to Charlotte. And just so you know, there's probably going to be 40 or 50 of us. So that's the first big get together. And and just so everybody knows, I was actually I've only sent him one email, but I did email George Hodge about trying to find a place where we could do a meetup. So I haven't replied to him. He gave me a bunch of thoughts and everything about doing that at Heroes. But so if anybody else has any ideas on where we might be able to do a get together, George and I are going to try to work something out, find some place, and it should be a lot of fun. But it'll be fun regardless, no matter where we end up hanging out. But Dick, listen, this has been great, very refreshing. We should have done this earlier. I'm glad that it was the new year today, and you were able to be free, today. So I appreciate the fact that you've kind of been tuning in and watching these things, but not being able to watch them, really live when we're doing them. So. If there's ever anything I can do for you, if you ever want to write an article, you'll always have a place to post it on CAF if you ever want to do anything more. So, I sincerely appreciate you taking the time today and sharing these awesome pieces that have been on CAF, some of them, but now we got to give them some extra love. So everybody definitely check out Dick's collection this evening and send some love. Put some comments on things and put some likes and share his collection around on Facebook and whatnot. We need to get more people into CAF. And don't forget, you got to vote. I think we only have about an hour and 10 minutes left to vote in the best of. And the last I looked, I refreshed that cover voting. It's still deadlocked. So somebody's got to break the ice here at the top of the cover votes. So yep, two covers are deadlocked at 72 votes. So it's and they're amazing covers. They both deserve to win, but yeah, we'll see. All right, so Dick, again, if there's ever anything I can do for you, please let me know. If you're ever coming to the States, please let me know. I'm assuming James would probably love to meet up as well. So if you're ever coming out this way, I would love to get together.
Yeah, likewise. Anyone coming to Asia, let us know as well. Let me know, and we can hook you up as well. Yeah. Yeah, James, and keep up the good work, Bill. Thank you for building this platform and this community. Yeah.
No, hey, it's my pleasure. I'm looking forward to the next 19 years of doing this too. I mean, it's been a lot of fun. It's never been dull, and that's been the great thing about it. I mean, for me, is that I think it's always kind of gotten a little bit more exciting every year that I've been involved at this level with the hobby, and that's why I've been doing it for so long, and I can foresee doing this for the rest of my life until I'm ready to retire, whenever that might be. So again, thank you very much, Dick, and thanks to everybody for tuning in. This was a lot of fun, and I hope everybody has time to tune in tomorrow night for that big Best of Awards celebration, as well as the birthday party for CAF. I'll actually probably have a drink on the table to do a toast at the end of the show. I won't be like Albert and drink during the show. So I hope everybody can tune in tomorrow night as well. So thank you, Dick. Enjoy the rest of your day in Singapore. And good night. Yep. Good night, everyone. And Happy New Year.